The 2011-2012 Volvo Ocean Race has a new leader thanks to an action-packed seventh leg across the Atlantic. Just 2,500 miles from the finish in Galway, Spanish team Telefónica's 6-month stranglehold on the race lead was finally broken. France's Groupama 4, skippered by offshore legend Frank Camas, is the new race leader. But with just 2 legs and 3 inshore sprint races remaining, 4 boats still have a shot at winning. Points have never been more crucial. It's destined to be the tightest finish to a Volvo Ocean Race ever. Leg 7, 3,600 nautical miles from Miami to Lisbon, was always destined to be vital to the shape of the race. If any team was due a change of fortune, it was Ian Walker's Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing, named Azam, meaning determined in Arabic. Walker and his team were the picture of concentration as they won both the Miami import, then led the fleet on the leg towards Lisbon. A day after the start, Abu Dhabi were hot-footing it with the rest of the fleet as they sailed right into the heart of tropical cyclone Alberto. But as chaos reigned, only the French had escaped the storm's clutches by jibing away early, stealing a healthy lead.
Jean-Luc picked a great time to jibe. Since then, all we've done is change sails. And yeah, to no one's surprise, the Volvo fleet is now upwind again.
The fleet were quick to reel the French front runners back in. Telefónica soon neck and neck with their rivals as critical decisions loomed. With light winds ahead, the fleet were forced to abandon their hopes of finding strong southwesterlies that would provide a fast ride to Lisbon.
It's transitioning out of sailing around our tropical lows and we've just got through a little trough line. The next step is sailing around the Azores High, which is a big high pressure system in the middle of the ocean. It's a bit of a risk. We want to get east, but if we go too far east we risk spinning out into the centre of the high before a front comes along to pick us up.
Spanish-Kiwi collaboration CAMPER pulled off a mid-leg comeback, climbing from 5th to 1st in 48 hours by leading the charge north. PUMA Ocean Racing, powered by Berg, hot on their heels. A week into the race, after a frustrating night trapped by high pressure, Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing were first to escape the fickle winds. And while the chasing pack still wallowed, Azam blazed east, building a lead of more than 90 miles.
Managed to get 95 miles out of PUMA. This is a big success, so probably more people looking at the computer, more people interested in the skeds than normal, unsurprisingly, because they're winning.
Walker's team were determined to make the most of their best opportunity yet to claim a leg victory, but they would require every mile of their hard-won lead to make it to Lisbon still in front, the fleet surging towards them as they churned through the miles heading east.
If we weren't in a boat race, I'd say that this is some of the best sailing you could ever do. Abu Dhabi's up there about 30 miles, and we're just all blistering towards Portugal right now. It's getting a little chilly, but flat water, 25 knots of breeze, J2 reef in the main staysail, just ripping.
As they approached the finish, Groupama had closed to within half a mile of Abu Dhabi as they entered a no-wind ridge. Walker and his team facing one final fight for their precious victory.
It's all now depending on who gets out the ridge next. Groupama, we think, are out. We'll find out the next sked. They're going to have a better angle into Lisbon than us, so they will be faster into Lisbon. We've probably got 15 miles on them, but they're going to tick that off pretty quickly.
But Azam hold on to claim a heroic win, incredibly less than 6 minutes ahead of Groupama after 12 days of racing and more than 3,500 miles at sea. The leg win, Ian Walker's first in his Volvo Ocean Racing career.
It's been 5 days of intense pressure with people catching us, and we did it. I'm so pleased for Abu Dhabi, I'm so pleased for the team.
For Groupama, claiming second was far from a defeat as, with Telefónica behind them, the French became the new leaders of the Volvo Ocean Race.
On a la chance aujourd'hui de pouvoir gagner à Volvo.
We have the chance to win a Volvo. We have to take it and see what happens afterwards. Have no regrets. I'm not sure if we're favourites, but we are in that position.
On a cette position-là.
Team Telefónica's focus was now to limit the damage as much as possible, pouring the pressure on Camper to the bitter end, catching and passing their Spanish rivals as they stalled in the Tagus River's current, just metres from the finish.
Al final, lo que de verdad todos queremos es estar.
At the end of the day, what we all want is to be leaders at the end of the race. Obviously, this result is not as good as the one from Miami because we are not leaders, but we can turn things around and we can be there again.
Never in the 39-year history of the race have 4 boats had a realistic chance of winning, with only so of offshore sailing remaining. Just 3 in-port and 2 ocean legs remain. The margin for error minuscule. It's destined to be a fight right to the finish to decide who will win the 2011-2012 Volvo Ocean Race. How close is it? Well, it's this close, just 3 points between Groupama and Team Telefónica, 21 points separating the top 4. All those 4 still in with a shout. It could not be closer. And that's the atmosphere that we're going to take into this Oeiras import race. This is the scene. The great city of Lisbon and its fantastic maritime heritage and all these landmarks. That is the monument to the discoverers. That is Henry the Navigator. That was history being made. This is history in the making in the Volvo Ocean Race. Camper, absolutely nothing to lose. They've got to win today if they're going to stay in the hunt. Puma ready to mix it up. Team Telefónica enjoying local vocal support. Ian Walker can hear set it on Abu Dhabi. These are the race leaders in Groupama. It's all to fight for today. I don't think there's ever been so much tension. The race has never ever been this close. It's all on today here in the Oeiras import race. Okay, we're out on the water now on the racetrack with our race leader, Frank Camas. Frank, your tactics for today?
The tactic is to avoid mistake, to avoid a very bad place like 4 to 6. So don't take risk and race properly, good maneuver and simply.
Okay, now tell me, Frank, how different does this race feel, this import race, knowing how important the points are now?
The import race is very important. We finish with a very close fight between 3 or 4 boats, so every point is important to gain. And maybe the race finish, the ranking finish with the import in the Galway. So the import now are at least even important than the offshore race.
We wish you well today, Frank. Good luck. Okay, Pepe Ribes on Telefónica now. You've had 2 bad import races in the last 2. What's the plan to make sure this is a good one?
The plan is to start first, to extend and to finish first. That's the plan.
How are you going to do that?
Oh, we've been training a lot here in the river, and I think our team is making like a pile, and we need to tough it out. It's 13 days of sailing, and we need to give 110% what we have left, no? And really, we need a good result. So this is a good time to have it, and we have a lot of fans here from Spain. And it's not just for us, it's for the fans. They spend a lot of money in these times to come to see us, so we need to give them something.
Okay, now you want the points, but you have to look after the boat. How do you balance that?
It's a very difficult balance because we need the boat for tomorrow, but we need the points today. So I think everyone is the same. So I think it's a very tough schedule for the teams, but today there will be nothing on the pocket. Everyone is going to give, every team I think is going to put as many risks as they can to win the race, so we will be up there.
Okay, we're really looking forward to seeing that, Pepe. Thanks for talking to us. So the monument to the discoveries, all part of the incredible history of this incredible place. And with me in the commentary box, Peter Lester. We're going to see history made this afternoon. Stress levels high, nerves jangling. Pipi Reeby is saying that he's going to implement a plan. He's going to be doing that in about 5 minutes. And Peter, tricky course. I mean, it's a mouth-watering prospect.
This sets up beautifully. 15 knots of breeze. Essentially, it's a downwind course. They're going to start and go downwind under the bridge, around the mark to the left-hand. So that's a port rounding. And then all the way back to the start-finishing line. So round mark 1. And boy, how important could that mark rounding be with spinnakers down. Then beating up against current, up the shoreline, through that start-finish line gate, then up to mark 2, and then back down to the finish. It is a little beauty. It's essentially an upwind-downwind course, Martin, although it is a downwind start. The conditions, it's partly cloudy, 16 knots of breeze. It's absolutely perfect. Essentially flat water and 24 degrees. Lovely conditions.
Commentating out on the water for us today, Mark Cavell, Olympic silver medalist, Volvo ocean racer. Paint a picture for us, Mark.
Well, it's fantastic out here. The current is currently ebbing, coming out of the river, and that's due to change around about 6 minutes past 1. It's already started to change on the outside, but what they'll want to do is get into that current, the last of the current heading them down to the bridge, and give them a little bit of push down. It'll also be keeping them off the line. So it'll be interesting to see how aggressive they'll be on the line. But the observation I'm looking at, because I'm out on one of the camera boats following the racing very close, is there's a lot of, sadly, there's a lot of flotsam and jetsam in the water, a lot of rubbish. And I've already seen a couple of the boats back down to make sure nothing's on the keel. So if we see one of the boats start and go slow, it might be that.
Mark, we've talked about the sort of tension, the stress levels high. Can you feel it out there?
Absolutely. You can see there's a lot of eyeballing from one team to another. They know exactly the game here, and the guys said it all. Some will be aggressive, some will desperately try to stay off those mistakes. So it's very interesting as it's shaping up here now.
Bit of a tactical minefield as we look at the two top teams. Groupama on the left, leading Telefónica by just those 3 points. Telefónica, two shockers in the last two import races in Miami and Itajaí, dead last in both of them. I'm sure they're not going to make it 3 today, but Groupama talking about being a little bit conservative, Frank Camas was saying, protecting his assets, protecting his positions, but that can sometimes backfire.
Easy said than done, to be honest, Martin, because once it gets tight and you're in that pre-start and the boat's engaged, it's hard to actually just keep out of trouble. It's a confined area, and it's even made more confined because of this effect of this current. Right now, the current is on the change, so the boats are, when they go on leg 1, are going to be punching a little bit of current down on the downwind. But already, you know, the boats with a minute 20 to go are committed. We can see they're in their final prep. We've got now Nicholson. He's got to be aggressive.
God, look at it.
He's got to win this start. They're behind on points. And we just look at CAMPER, and then there's Telefónica coming in. They're all setting up at that pin end, with the committee boat being the other end of the start at the appropriate time. The downwind sails, the Genicas, will be deployed. So CAMPER to windward of Abu Dhabi, and then we've got Telefónica leading back towards the committee boat. Only coming up now, 43 seconds to go. And Sanya also coming. Looks like Mike Sanderson's got a different strategy, but Kenny Reid was pulling the trigger there. You could see he's looking for an overlap on as Reid comes down under Telefónica. We're looking at Groupama, so that group are really locked together. Look at PUMA attacking Telefónica. Telefónica will be required to keep clear as the windward boat. As we thought, there's going to be fun and games in this pre-start. And it's the 3 leading boats that are locked in together, and they're pushing down towards the committee boat end, and it was PUMA pushing hard. Up to 5 seconds to go. Now we're into it, and CAMPER coming down. It's not a good start by Nicholson. It's a very good start at the committee boat end by PUMA. The boats are all clear. They're on their way on the downwind start to leg 1. Good start by PUMA.
PUMA, Ocean Racing, powered by Berger. Slingshot start for them. What a beauty, Mark Cavell.
Absolutely, we were tucked right in behind CAMPER, and you could see how they were loving the action between Telefónica and PUMA. And right now, Telefónica is luffing PUMA. There's definitely some match racing going on here.
Whoa.
Telefónica looking
There's some action there, and we see a flag of Puma. And Telefónica have put Puma under the pump. The flags are flying, and as we thought, this would be an exciting pre-start. We look for the umpire call. The windward boat Puma required to keep clear. Did they keep clear? We just wait for the on-the-water call. There's Kenny Reid, still got flag in hand. And Martin, I think we're going to see this. This will be an arm wrestle all the way round. But look, and it's still Telefónica. Red flag penalty. Who's it against? I think it will be against Puma. Puma have been penalised in the pre-start. And Martin, this is all on. Up it goes again. We can see now. That'll be for proper course. Kenny Reid there claiming, because these boats are actually sailing away from the fleet. And it's turning into a bit of a match race between Telefónica and Puma.
Still the red flag flies on the Empire boat. Mark Cavell, what are you seeing out there?
Well, that was a very aggressive move there by Telefónica as they came up, and they were also having some issues on the foredeck as they came up, but Puma did a fantastic job to get that the big red A sail flying and sail down over the bow and move away, and we've got a head sail coming up on Telefónica, getting ready for this 360.
Well, it looks like Telefónica with the boat penalised. Well, again, this bogey of the import race have really come to harm Telefónica again. They've fouled out soon after the start.
Well, we promised intrigue and action, and we've got it within the first minute of this extraordinary race. Well, it just shows how much there is to play for in this import race. Telefónica now charging along, and we believe they have a penalty against them. At some stage, they're going to have to do a penalty turn.
Here comes the kite down. It's coming down, and they've got to get the head of the kite low of the gooseneck. This is a big manoeuvre now, so they're doing a little bit of a Kiwi here, where they're bringing the kite down over the set sail on the foredeck. So they're keeping things clean. So far it's going well, but that's a lot of kite to get out of the air. And then they've got to turn 360 round and then rejoin the race.
Well, what a punishment that is, Peter Lester.
Oh, yeah, that's a big penalty to be taking in such a short track. And the penalty went against Telefónica. They have really, the last three inshores, they've dropped the ball, and this one again, this will put them in the back of the fleet. Now, while this has been all unfolding, it is played right in the hands, really, of Groupama. We're on board Telefónica. It's a penalty turn they've had to do. As we look there, see the overlap has been established from leeward and behind, which means that it's Telefónica who fouled out. Kenny Reid saying, well, leeward and behind overlap, you can't luff me, you can only go to proper course. And that's the way that the umpires have called that one. Kenny Reid, as the windward boat, certainly had some obligations to keep clear, and he's been deemed to have kept clear. Telefónica, their turn complete. Now they'll re-hoist their Jenica on the downwind, but they are...
Well, there's the punishment. Look at the punishment. The blue sails, long way behind. Hard to catch up, but they'll be battling, and they'll be right back into it. And as you say, played right into the hands of Groupama, who are looking good, Mark.
Well, Groupama all the time are stretching away. We're just on the transom of Telefónica as they just finished they're still hoisting this the new sail after their manoeuvre. But looking down forward on the course, Groupama this has just played beautifully into their hands. And as well, all that shenanigans going on the start, CAMPER got a nice start. So definitely Groupama and CAMPER really making advantage out of the little bit of match racing before the start there.
Well, Martin, going into this one, I thought something was going to happen. Wasn't dead right sure what it was going to be, and we weren't disappointed. And it was that tussle between Telefónica and Puma. Telefónica copping the penalty because Kenny Reid, he's a match racing expert, ex-America's Cup, and really he did the business. But look, the race leader, Groupama, they're off. They're leading. They got a beautiful start. They didn't tangle. And it's Groupama who have stepped out. CAMPER are also in there. There's Sanya. They were behind a bit at the start. I think they trail that leading bunch. So off the line, it's Groupama. Then CAMPER. CAMPER must be pretty well bow to bow with Abu Dhabi. Mark, looking at the spread of the boats, Abu Dhabi looked pretty strong down there on the city side.
Yeah, they are, and they will be playing the last of the current advantage in the middle of the course here. And Groupama out on one side where the current will probably be changing already. So probably Abu Dhabi, a little bit more breeze and a little bit more current as we chase down to join the leaders. And I just see that Groupama are now jiving out to join the middle of the fleet.
Yeah, Groupama jiving, CAMPER still coming. Again, that distinctive bow wash.
Wow, they're just pushing the water away.
Yeah, she really does push a lot of water around CAMPER off the bow. It looks quite different from the 3-1K boats. But Martin, I think the next key point for this, they're going to jive their way down under the bridge, round the mark, down to that first mark. And I think that first mark rounding and the retrieval of the Jenica and then the getting on the wind up the seawall could be a big moment.
Will Oxley there trying to direct operations as Groupama. Well, this is a flying machine. Look at this thing powering down the Tagus River here in the Oeiras import race.
Martin, I've just gotten confirmation here. The penalty against Telefónica was for sailing above her proper course off the line. Of course, they established their overlap from Lorient behind. They couldn't sail above their proper course and luck, and that's why it went against Telefónica.
There was a fair flurrying of flags there, wasn't there?
I mean, initially I thought, I wonder if the overlap had been established, but that's not the way it was called. So we look at Groupama heading back over towards the city side, and we can see Abu Dhabi on that side out. In centre stream, we have got CAMPER.
Okay, Mark Cavell, where do you think the advantage is at the moment in terms of what the tide's doing and where the course is?
I think we've just lost Mark momentarily, but we're just looking at Groupama. She looks superb. Beautiful start. The race leader. They're the team with the momentum, Martin.
Well, they just played that so clean, didn't they?
He did keep out of trouble. And of course, with what happened with PUMA and Telefónica engaging, it opened a gap. And it gave them a beautiful lane as they went off the line.
Cristo Rey, the National Shrine of Christ the King, looks down over the 25th of April bridge here in Lisbon, and what a view. What an amazing thing. 80 meters tall, 260 feet tall. That statue inspired by the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de Janeiro.
Now look at this, Martin, great big wide shot there as we came, and you can see the streakiness of the wind on the water. And as CAMPER and who's that to windward? That's Abu Dhabi. They're in more pressure than the boats on the city side. So look for CAMPER and Abu Dhabi. You can see midstream, darkish, little dark spot on the water. I just wonder if that group coming across are going to make a little bit of a gain. It's going to be close at this first mark. Now, Mark, out on the water, it's quite puffy, and certainly we had a big wide heli shot there. The pressure differences on the water are quite big.
It's very, very different. We are right sandwiched between Groupama and PUMA, and I didn't think PUMA was an issue, but she caught a gust and she came right onto us. She's now flying down. Groupama's actually just come up on her course to keep clear air, but PUMA really bringing some pressure back. And it was interesting on the other side of the city, both CAMPER and Abu Dhabi managed to sail quite deep angles down on some lovely pressure rolling down the river. So there's lots of different passing lanes here. There are a lot of different pressure gauges as the tide is changing and the breeze is up and down.
Mark, we just come back, another big wide shot coming under the bridge, and it looks to me as though CAMPER and Abu Dhabi are the boats to benefit. They're coming across, and this cross will be a beauty. The boats that are coming across on starboard, which is Groupama and PUMA, they've got the starboard advantage. We can see that Abu Dhabi are going to have to just go round behind, but they'll be very, very close to PUMA. Where are CAMPER? Can CAMPER actually sneak into the lead here? Have they got enough leverage? They certainly came across with pressure. A big cross coming up. So we've got CAMPER coming. Are they going to get round the bow of Groupama?
Well, this is close.
Lead change. So it's CAMPER have just snuck into the lead, but there's nothing in it. Wow, it's a beauty. This is fascinating. Downwind, getting along. They've got plenty of breeze, around 17 knots. but it's pressure. It's all about getting in pressure because the angles change, the performance parameters of the boats just rocket up if a boat's in a bit more wind than the opposition.
So coming under the 25th of April bridge here, another huge landmark, and what a vista this is. What an amazing auditorium for this Oeiras import race. Groupama and PUMA absolutely going at it, and Mark Cavell, we'd hoped this would be a thriller. It's not disappointing.
Absolutely not. We're just coming under the bridge now, and all the guys on Groupama are desperately searching, working out when they're going to jibe. Pressure's coming up here, and the bows come up as they're just setting up for their jibe. We've got PUMA just on their hip, and you can really see the gusts coming down this course as PUMA picks up another one and makes a little bit of a gain on Groupama. So we're out here on the right.
Now, when the boats converge again, so we've got Camper now on city side, it'll be the boats, and it will be Abu Dhabi and Camper. They'll come back with starboard advantage, and the closer you get to the mark, at Mark 1, the boats with starboard advantage, if they are bow to bow, or they can have a piece, as we say, of those port hand boats, it will be starboard advantage as long as Camper can maintain their lead.
Going under the bridge now, don't worry about them clipping it. There's 70 metres of clearance at high water, and we're just on low water at the moment. So this is PUMA now going under the little railway track that hangs under this bridge, this huge landmark here in Lisbon.
Fabulous shot.
Great shot. So it's a dramatic place, and this is dramatic racing to go with it.
Let's have a wee bit of a look as we look at virtual, and the look, there's
5
nothing
meters.
in it. You've got Camper and Groupama. They're right together in terms of that advantage line, but we could see big split. We could see big change if one of these boats gets in pressure as we come. This is on PUMA, Kenny Reid. Look at them looking across. Where are we in terms of bearing on the boats that we're approaching? And I think looking off PUMA, the boat that they're looking at will be Abu Dhabi. As Sanya coming through the bridge. Great shots, Martin. They just look fabulous.
Great shots. Here's a little one for you. 54,000 kilometres of steel wire strand in the cables that are holding this thing up. Incredible, eh? And the foundations go 80 metres underneath the water, you know, from the water down. Go 80 metres down. It's meant to survive help with earthquake sort of protection, if you like. We're on board with Sanya, Mike Sanderson there, driving down, and this is really telling on the older generation boat, isn't it? Just can't keep up.
Well, they didn't get a great start, and you know, the boats just doesn't have the horsepower of these other boats. But look at the front of the pack. You've got Camper and Groupama almost locked together. Camper will have starboard advantage when they converge back together. It just look at the speeds. Yeah, it's Groupama with a bit more pace coming across. A little bit more wind speed maybe for Groupama. Yeah, she's got what, 2 knots more pressure. So it seems like the boats, when they are looking down, come to this right-hand side, maybe there's a wee bit more wind on the right. But have Groupama got enough to get round Camper? I'm not sure if they have. As we look at the converging again, we could see another lead change here. Has Camas got back in the lead? It's looking better and better for the French.
Well, they've got that extra click of speed, haven't they, that we've often talked about with this boat. They're just one of the 1 Kumjan boats, 1K boat, and there's that knot that that knot and a bit, that knot to 2 knots that Virtual is telling us is the difference between Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand and Groupama. And
I've got to say, though,
I think you're going to get across.
Yeah, I've got to say, though, Martin, I think this is positioning, and we're seeing a bit of a pattern now on the downwind, and the boats that have got over towards the right-hand side, a little bit more pressure. We saw Camper take advantage of that. Now Groupama have got back into the lead, so another lead change. I think we're going to see quite a bit of lead change, and going to the city side, it was PUMA have gone all the way across. Are they looking for a bit of a piece of starboard advantage? But the bottom mark rounding is going to be absolutely crucial. As they smoke down towards the bottom, they're doing They're doing big speeds at the most speed over the ground, around 16 knots, 17 knots of boat speed.
So how much is the judgment here on how many jibes you do?
Well, jibes are important, but it's the angle that you come at the bottom mark that's so crucial, because you want to come at the right angle so you get optimum speed. If you come in a bit deep, a bit slow, of course, the boats around you, are going to be doing 17 knots. So I think the bottom mark approach, picking up the ley line to the bottom mark, will be absolutely crucial for this group.
Well, what are the stress levels going to be like on the navigators trying to work this out? They've got to work out wind, current, angles. This is a real test.
Now, this is all on now. Absolutely all on, and it's Groupama have now jibed. They're ahead of PUMA, as we could see. PUMA, it's the two leading boats will be CAMPER and Groupama, but it's wow, the French have really stepped it out. Since the bridge, they've extended over the Kiwis.
So they're losing a bit as they go into and out of the jibe on the French boat.
But it's more about the pressure. Who has got the gust on the water? As CAMPER now, Nicholson brings the boat through a jibe. Flurry of grinding as the boat comes through. We can see the effect of the canting keel as they jibe through. The Jenica sheeted on the new side. They'll be looking for wind on the water. Looks a bit quiet where CAMPER is. She's not smoking out of that jibe as they look across.
Mark, how streaky is it out there?
Well, we are right on the transom of CAMPER, and they will be coming into more pressure because Abu Dhabi's coming down the middle of the course and they're bringing down a nice gust. But they have had the last minute or so out here less pressure. And we've got they're joining Groupama again. I think they've done all right over here.
Yeah, look, right hand's paying on this downwind. We're seeing a pattern now. The boat that gets far right seems to have the advantage. And has CAMPER got enough to get round the bow of Groupama? I don't think so. Groupama starboard, CAMPER port. CAMPER required to keep clear. What's as the intersection of the Kiwis round the bow? They are. They snuck around. Whoa, that one was close, but there was enough in it. Is there a flag?
We're looking.
No, I'm not sure.
Flag.
No flag. It was clean.
Mark, where are you?
I'm right on the stern, no flag at all. And the guys on CAMPER were as cool as they could be. The body language said, we're crossing, we're crossing, we're crossing. Everybody just kept on looking forward.
Mark, what
Very
do you reckon?
nice work.
What do you reckon? Bottom mark, big advantage for the boat that gets around that mark first, with it being so close.
Well, from here on in, I'm saying that CAMPER's going to come back in. They'll be on starboard. Frank Camas out here on Groupama, just coming onto this little corner here. And I'm worried that this is the first time that this side's been looking a little lighter. So it might be that the advantage is going back to the left-hand side. But I think all boats coming in on starboard, when it's this close, I'd always want to be on starboard.
Yeah, agree with that. Starboard advantage. So it's a port hand rounding. Remember, they're going to make a left-hand turn. The premium will be on crew work. Groupama jibing. Let's have a look at the jibe. Looks pretty tidy. Groupama now look like they're on the ley line as they come on port, but of course they are going to have to be just mindful of the boats coming in at starboard. We can see now Mark 1. It's been what, about a 4.2 mile leg, so it's stretched it out. We've seen how many lead changes, Martin? Are we 3?
3.
So we've had action.
3 lead changes.
We've had action.
No, I can't complain about it.
As
it's just
promised.
Yet another amazing import race, and there is CAMPER absolutely smoking down. But has she got the legs on the French boat?
Yeah, and have, the trend has been for the boats to come across from the right-hand side with better pressure. CAMPER just continuing on. It will be a big call here for Stu Bannatyne. Needs to pick up the ley line, the starboard ley line. That's the opposite jibe. CAMPER will want to be round this one first. Will Oakley navigator.
I have never seen Nicholson look so tense.
Well, he's had Grant here all week, winding him up.
Grant Dalton, yeah.
I'd be
that's true, but
well.
I mean, he has looked so tense from right in the pre-start. He knows what this could mean.
It's a must-win.
Absolutely, it's a must-win. And when you've got a boat like this French one down here in the bottom of the virtual eye, and you've got Telefónica, who are a click quicker, well, it's such a battle. And how can they go on the upwind on the way back? Let's see how this one's going to play out. Mark, this is everything we'd hoped it would be. You can't complain about the action.
Absolutely not, as I'm right on the transom with Camper, and I'm pointing at the mark. It may not be as much breeze as, Camper, I'm with Groupama. There may not be as much breeze as over with Camper. We've certainly got angle, so a little bit of a letdown to the mark. All the time I'm seeing the mark to the left of Groupama, so it means that they are laying this nicely. And if they get any more pressure, they'll be down to it, as Camper go into the jibe.
And Mark, just as this one's setting up, Groupama coming in, they're going to have the easier mark rounding. Essentially, you can see the Genoa going up, they'll come in, Spinnaker around, down, and then they'll come around the mark. For Camper and for Abu Dhabi, they have the harder manoeuvre. They've got to really they've got to do a 280-degree turn around the mark. So this will really put Camper under the pump in terms of crew work. But we have, the Camper crew have shown to be pretty good in the front of the bus, in the front of the boat, in terms of crew work. But it'll be a big advantage here for the leading boat. Camper have got a problem with the Agenica. They've jibed, they put the Genoa up, and then they've lost the airflow and the integrity of the Genica. So that's a bit of a problem for Camper. They have got the harder manoeuvre, but I think they'll be in the zone first. So this has been a bit messy for Camper in terms of jib up, getting tidy for the mark.
And what we know is that they're very short-handed on these races. They should have 16, 17 people, not just 10. And this is part of the real difficulty within these import races. And the handling, as we see Groupama letting their kite go, the handling all absolutely critical here, Mark.
Yes, there's some lovely manoeuvres here, and it's looking like a nice drop here on Groupama. Frank Camas's hand went up, that gave the signal for the halyard to go, and it's all hands on deck as that sail comes in, and they are looking very close. And even if they have to go round a wider shot, that they will be bow forward on Camper. And in there, you've got in the mix, we've got Abu Dhabi as they let go their sail. So we're dropping, and we've got a cross here. Groupama is sort of round the bow. Yes, they're round the bow. They're making the turn. That is a lead for Groupama.
Another lead change in this Oeiras import race.
Wow, the right hand down on the downwind has just been such a big advantage. And these boats have swapped the lead, and it's always been the boat coming in on the right that's paid. And at the mark, it was Groupama who took the advantage. They got round the bow of Camper. And you've got to give a big rap there for Frank Camas and his team. They were under the attack from Camper, but
they're sailing beautifully. The French are sailing beautifully, and they just seem to be so calm with the way that they are sailing. So there's our leaders as we head back up the Tagus River.
Little observation, Martin, because of Camper's wider turn, they're going to hit the walls sooner, and they're going to have to be forced to tack, and they'll be coming out at Abu Dhabi. So Groupama will be able to get a much nicer exit up the wall up here.
Working the wall, that's what this is all going to be about. And the turning mark here was just off the Commerce Square, another part of this amazing historical city there. So that is the Commerce Square in there. Part of the big maritime history here as we look at the more modern technology with virtual. So it's Frank Camas there just sneaking into the lead again. Fourth lead change.
Yeah, it is. And you know, you've got to say with Camper, probably a tactical error. They had the opportunity when they passed to probably match with Groupama and go back to that right. They elected to go all the way to the starboard ley line, and it didn't work out for them. It certainly worked out for Groupama, who picked that ley line to perfection, and they got round the bow of Camper to lead at that Mark 1. And I think that's a crucial time to really have, you know, the advantage in this arm wrestle.
Okay, we're on this upwind now. We're talking about working the wall, Mark. Explain what we mean.
Okay, we've got the mark is set so close to the city side that it's only a couple of 100 meters before the guys have got to tack out of the wall, and that's what Abu Dhabi's doing now. But just looking upwind as we're bouncing up to catch the fleet from the leeward mark, Groupama is going to cover Camper, stick to them between the opposition and the mark. That's what Camper will. That's what Groupama will be doing. And Camper's just trying to put their bow down to just try to extend out.
We're looking at Telefónica, and look at the effort that these guys are on board with Telefónica, watching the grinders grind. And well, this is hard work for those guys, and they've got a lot of it now as they tack right down the river, the Tagus River here.
It'll be interesting to see how much they elect to sail out and cut the tacks down and use the width of this river.
Well, I guess right now, in terms of current and the water, what are we, just after low tide, Mark, there's probably not a big difference of current across the course. We can see Groupama now just extending out into the middle of the channel. But Martin, you can see the effect of being first around that mark for Groupama. They've stretched over Camper.
Well, it's what we always say in these situations. This is a case of the rich getting richer. What might they have in the armoury here on board Camper to try and fight their way back? And I mean, historically, this is, you know, when you're around there in these races, we've seen a lot of just extending.
Well, it can be, and I think the bottom mark was a big deal. Whoever got round there first is just going to reap the reward, and that's what's happened. Camper down to lure, a little bit compromised. They just heard Robert Salthouse saying the jibber's a little bit eased, which means probably Camper are just sailing a little bit deeper than they'd normally sail on the wind to keep their air clear on Groupama, who are to windward and bow forward. Beautiful conditions. What the wind speed now, we've got it 18 knots, and the boats are charging along at around 12 knots through the water as they head to Mark II, so they're going right back down to the start finishing area.
Abu Dhabi as well. Well, they've got to be a threat, haven't they? Because we know how much they love what is comparatively flat water. I mean, she's a quick boat here, and I guess part of the issue as well is that, you know, when you're on a roll, which they have been, your confidence is up, you're making the right decisions, and you know they've been sailing smart, and they could easily get back into this.
Yeah, they could. You know, the times now that boats will get back into it will be the turning marks. But Groupama just looks superb. Camper, where they are now, probably they're saying we've just got clear wind. There's Brad Marsh on board Groupama. It's funny, I say to him, how's your French going? Because he's
now the first mark, we're heading up to the second mark, and we're in first place, so that's good. Had a nice downwind, a really nice bottom mark manoeuvre, and we've got Camper just down here, PUMA right here, and everyone you can hit a tennis ball to at the moment. Very close.
Brad Marsh, you could hit a tennis ball to it. Well, this is the sort of racing that we love to watch, and how tense it must be for the guys who are actually down there doing it. Rob Salthouse bellowing down below.
Yeah, there's not much in it, and certainly Abu Dhabi are right in contact with Camper. I think the issue for Camper will be, well, if we tack, are we going to get slammed by Groupama? They'll just match them. I mean, they've probably been compromised coming across here. Camper are just, you know, they're being herded really by Groupama.
Groupama with just that, again, this click extra speed. Are they sailing just a little bit higher as well?
Well, I think they're pushing forward over the bow of Camper. Here's Camper setting up for attack.
Camper takes. Nick Burridge there gritting his teeth. This is going to be extremely hard work. You can see the white caps there, heaps of pressure of all kinds, in the air, on the water, on the boat. It's a right pressure cooker.
It is. As we saw, Camper tacked and Groupama tacked to windward. But Telefónica, who fouled out, oh, it's expensive.
See the girl on the back of that boat, on back of Telefónica there, one of the guests on board. She'll be loving this. That's Teresa Zabel, who's a 470 sailor, gold medal twice in Barcelona and Atlanta. There she is, just on the right-hand side of your shot. What a treat that would be for her. I bet she's loving this. Telefónica, we know, have brought a whole heap of people down here from Spain.
Well, look at this. This was the pre-start. So Telefónica established the overlap from Lorient behind. They couldn't sail above proper course. See the luff on Telefónica. Kenny Reid responds with a flag and winds the bow down. There's flags galore on Puma, and that one went against the against Telefónica. And how expensive is that in terms of points lost, really, Martin? And it's these really unforced errors. Telefónica didn't need to be that aggressive.
Well, when you've got you know, just three points between you, it's funny, there were two. They telegraphed, both those boats telegraphed their intentions, both Telefónica and Groupama, before the race started. And of course, in the mix, as we've always been saying, has been this Puma Ocean Racing powered by Berg. And before the race began, Frank Camas said we're going to be conservative, keep it clean. Telefónica said we're going out to win. And you know, it's paid off for Groupama, and it's paid dear for Telefónica with that mistake inflicted by them trying to get one over these guys here on Puma.
Well, they're going to bleed points basically, and the race is so close. Just in terms of their import performance, Telefónica, they've bled points in Itajaí, they bled points in Miami, and it looks like they're going to sort of bleed easy points again here in you know, in this stopover. So
that's exactly what they didn't want to do.
Absolutely. As we look at on board with Abu Dhabi are really fighting it out with CAMPER a second, Abu Dhabi a third, but there's not much in it. Classical covering position there with Groupama over CAMPER. CAMPER, you know, they've probably got a little bit, they think they'll have a little bit more clear air than they had when they came across on starboard, but Frank Camas is doing a fabulous job as they thunder upwind on the leg two.
Well, when we were looking at those shots, those two boats, they are both so different, and this one just again, it just looks quicker. Frank Camas looks backwards. He'll be loving this. I mean, we heard from Brad Marsh there, you know, here we are, we're first and loving it. Well, of course he would be.
I think it's more, I don't know, this one doesn't look to me as though it's a pace issue, Martin, it's a positioning, and that bottom mark rounding was so strong for the boats that got in there first.
Cristo Rey, the National Shrine of Christ the King, down below here. That's Justin Slattery getting ready for the next downwind. That'll be hot, sweaty, unpleasant work down in that boat. He's still got all his oilskins on. He'll be wet outside and inside. Gives us a good Irish grin, and he's back up on deck and working away.
Jenica needs to be repacked, making sure that there's no twists, because of course that can be kiss of death if you get a twist in the Jenica, and then the sail is hoisted with a twist. As Abu Dhabi, gee, Slattery's busy, isn't he? Packing the sail, grinding on the tacks.
Adil Khalid, the young man who's really come of age on this race, the first Emirati to sail on a Volvo Ocean race. We heard from Ian Walker that his baptism of fire through the Southern Ocean has really turned him into, he's really, as we say, come of age. I think he's only 23, you know him.
Yeah, he's, it'll have changed his life forever, I would suggest.
Absolutely. Well, here we are back on the beat, going over the 25th of April bridge. And this was, the bridge got its 25th of April name after it was, after the Carnation Revolution in 1974. Changed its name from what was the Salazar Bridge for a former Prime Minister who had that, once upon a time had his name on, but no longer.
Mike Sanderson, Sanya, they just don't have the speed to keep up with these the rest of the fleet. Their only chance was really to win the start, and they didn't. As we look, oh, that's a strong cover there by Groupama. So CAMPER attacked, Groupama have attacked right in the face of CAMPER. So this will be a big advantage. Groupama will extend. And it's that compounding effect, Martin, of whoever got round that bottom mark first, they can dictate terms to the boat behind them. And we've seen that beautifully illustrated by Camas and his team. They've herded CAMPER around the track, and that, what, the boats were 1 length advantage when they went around the mark. Now it's really gone out to a 5 length advantage to Groupama over CAMPER. And that is, for CAMPER, that has brought the PUMA really back into them, because of course PUMA and Abu Dhabi have really got clear air to sail in, whereas CAMPER is being dictated to by Groupama.
So on the back foot a bit here now on CAMPER with Emirates Team New Zealand. And Mark Cavell, can you see any opportunities up the track that might close the game up?
Well, we've come up to this Mark II and looking down at the tight cover that Groupama's got. And I will say that we've just come up the left-hand side looking up the river out to sea, and there's a little bit more breeze on the left as we saw downwind. And that is exactly where Abu Dhabi is coming from. And it'll be interesting to see on the virtual eye whether Abu Dhabi has managed to make some advantage out here. Wouldn't surprise me if they have.
It certainly looks like they have.
Yeah, certainly have. This is a cross, and CAMPER starboard, they'll have starboard advantage, but we can see a dip coming up here for Abu Dhabi to come around the transom of CAMPER. So Abu Dhabi are right in this one as they come round behind CAMPER.
This is the view from the camera on the back of CAMPER. Oh, they can feel the heat.
Yeah, well, some of that is that CAMPER are being dictated to by Groupama, but also, as we saw on the downwind, as Mark pointed out, there seems to be a bit more pressure as we look upwind on the left-hand side. But next time they cross, it'll be, and I'm talking the intersection between CAMPER and Abu Dhabi, it'll be Abu Dhabi with starboard advantage. But CAMPER really are being sort of dealt to here by Groupama, but they're trying to minimise their cost, their tax, because it's expensive. And I think Groupama are affecting CAMPER.
And they'll know that as well. Well, I mean, they are. They're just, as you say, they're just stretching it out.
I'd say CAMPER have tacked. Now Groupama keeping in phase. Down goes the boards. Yeah, see, CAMPER are setting up. So what happens, CAMPER will have been standby tack, and as soon as the crews start moving, the crew on Groupama, you know, match. They do a simo. So CAMPER tack, Groupama tack, and they just keep extending their lead by boat lengths over the red sails of CAMPER.
Virtually every tack, isn't it?
Yep, every tack, and it's all about positioning. I think the next one to look out for here, Martin, is when CAMPER and Abu Dhabi come back together, because we did see Abu Dhabi dip behind CAMPER. Now Abu Dhabi went all the way across to PUMA and faced them. That has forced PUMA to tack away. Gee, look how expensive tacks are.
PUMA's just
PUMA
sitting.
is just sitting there dead. As we go back to Telefónica, put their position just down to that pre-start. I wonder if they had a bit of a rush of blood to the head, Martin.
Bit of dip here.
Yeah, well, something like that. Oh, well, here's
change. Yeah. So it was Abu Dhabi who, remember, they dipped CAMPER, and then they've come across starboard advantage. CAMPER forced to dip. So we've seen a change of position for second and third, with Abu Dhabi now up to second, and CAMPER, who were leading at one stage on League One, now back to third.
You compare, if you look at Abu Dhabi like that, she just looks quicker than CAMPER in these conditions. Might be an optical thing, but it certainly looks that way.
For me, CAMPER are being dictated to, though, Martin, by the positioning of Groupama. Well, it's all legit, it's all above board, but that has meant that really Abu Dhabi have been able to sail their own course. They've had the pick of the breeze. They're not sailing in turbulent wind.
Ian Walker with his game face on.
Gee, look at the extension there of Groupama, with CAMPER having to dip Abu Dhabi. Yep. That's given, you know, 1 boat length at the bottom mark is now out to 8 boat lengths for Groupama, and they're almost getting into a position that they'd just be able to sail their own numbers, throttling back, and I would think, barring a wrong mark or an incident with sails, this is looking very good for the Volvo Ocean Race leaders.
Well, they're looking good in every respect, looking good on the scoreboard, looking very, very good on the water. And they're just, they've had a kind of relaxed demeanour, and, when you're on a roll, aren't you, in everything you do.
They're definitely on a roll, and they've They've just extended it. So Camper come across and face Puma. Boy, Puma have been pushed around a wee bit. They got dumped on by Abu Dhabi and had to tack away. Now Camper have come across and put one on their face as well. So Kenny Reid's got work to do. Let's look for this cross. Last cross it was Abu Dhabi ahead. Starboard advantage to Camper. Abu Dhabi come towards Camper, forced attack. So that will mean, that will probably technically mean that Camper are bow forward after the tack. So the tacks are expensive. So Abu Dhabi, look at the difference in speed, Martin. And coupled with that, with the loss of grip of the keel, the boat that tacks, before it gets back up to speed, a lot of leeway, they go sideways.
Back on board here with Camper, and well, what a battle they're in just to try and stay in second now, let alone scrap for the first place. Look how far ahead Groupama's got now. Mark, Rich getting richer.
Absolutely, they're getting further and further away from us. We're just underneath Abu Dhabi, and that was expensive for Ian Walker and his team. There would have been a nice cross to get the other side of Camper, but that was the right thing to do, tack to leeward. And but I mean, the whole thing is really crunched up. We've got just seeing those three boats on starboard, we had Puma and Camper and Abu Dhabi very, very close. So and don't forget, there's an overall there's a trophy for the best performance in the import, and I believe there's 3 boats tied on 30 points.
Well, that would be Camper, Abu Dhabi and Puma, I think, are tied there. I can check that out. One of my little facts here somewhere. Yeah, Abu Dhabi, Camper and Puma tied on 30 points in the short form of this amazing race. Ken Reid at the wheel, and he'll be wanting to well, he's got that look, the sort of the concentration and tension as we look down there towards the monument to the discoveries. I wonder what they would make of what's going on here now. They were cutting edge once upon a time in the 14th century.
Well, they've been busy on board Puma. Now, they've been bounced around a wee bit. They've been tacked on by Camper and by Abu Dhabi a couple of times, so they've probably done a couple more tacks than the others. And a bit more marshrake on Groupama when you look at her compared with the other boats. After we look, you can see, Martin, quite a lot of marshrake. Wonder what effect that has. Probably helps them reaching a little bit. Maybe that's one of the contributing factors offshore why she's so quick. As we come on.
Nick Burridge, he's doing this leg in place of Mike Paminter, who injured his back. So Nick Burridge promoted from the shore crew onto the sailing crew, and loving every minute of it, working hard too. But can they close that gap? It's getting bigger and bigger, and I mean these are terrific boats, but you know, some are quicker than others. It's as simple as that. Looking across the Tegus River there towards the city side, and on board now with Abu Dhabi.
For me, Martin, I think Camper and Abu Dhabi, especially Camper, they've basically resigned to the fact, oh, spectator boats in the fleet, oh, this, come on, I hope there's not a collision here, this could be a shocker, oh, there's spectator boats really affecting Abu Dhabi. That is not good. And people, I think, that are out there misjudge the speed of these boats. Look at Abu Dhabi having to thread the needle here between spectator boats. Although Ian Walker hasn't got enough on trying to race, but that spectator boat has really affected Abu Dhabi. And for Camper, a little bit cleaner. They've just been able to tack right on the bow of Abu Dhabi. Just getting back, Martin, I think Camper, Nicholson resigned to the fact that Groupama are gone, and they are now just really preserving that second position. But that classical cover by the.
In terms of the trophy for the import races, then this would put Camper in the lead for that, for chasing that, with 2 imports still to go after this. So that is something to fight for, and they've had precious little success on the podium really, and that would be at least something to come away with, because at the moment Frank Camas is cementing his position at the top of the board with these still, you know, 4 more races still to go, but what a great position for him to be in.
Well, it's a great position to be in, of course, to win, but also the boat that's second is going to bleed more points. They fouled out soon after the start, Telefónica, and right now they trail the feet. So, you know, Groupama are doing everything to win the race, and I think they're going to win this one. But really, Telefónica are losing valuable points and put that down to a penalty.
Well, absolutely, and a penalty so early in the piece. Extraordinary.
Coming up for another cross, and it's this time it's PUMA have got back in the mix as we go to virtual. Have PUMA actually bailed out? They might have tacked actually, so which would indicate that they really didn't have a piece of those boats to win with. So rather than going mix it, they've tacked down to leeward and clear air, and already Kenny Reid is setting himself up for that mark rounding.
Mark Cavell, what's happening out there where you are?
Well, we're just bouncing our way to the top of the course, up to this windward gate. So looking back down at the fleet, but that was very costly for Abu Dhabi to go in there. Obviously, they were waiting to have PUMA tack so they could set up for some clear air, and that just played into Camper's hand when they had to tack. They could tack straight on top of Abu Dhabi. So really pushing the edges of this course. But it looking down here now that Groupama looks like they're on ley line for this windward gate here.
Okay, they have a choice when they get up to the top. They can go to the left, they can go to the right. What would you fancy, Mark?
Well, the right-hand mark is a little bit further downwind, so that's the closer mark to them. But the current is, the tide is building all the time, and the left-hand mark will set them up for more current in the middle of the course. So as it stands, I would say if it's all about whether they have to tack again. If they can lay this right-hand mark without tacking, I'd say that would be the favoured mark.
Lovely shot here from the chopper. Looking back, this is our leading trio here. Groupama stretching it away 250 plus metres. Big spectator fleet out here, as you would expect in this sailing place.
Well, Martin, I'd say, you know, 250 metres. I'd put about, you know, 230 or 240 metres of that down to that bottom mark.
Yep.
And that little cross at the bottom mark when Groupama picked up the right, they got the ley line perfect for a rounding. But also Camper set up for the harder manoeuvre, starboard advantage, but they couldn't have a piece. They couldn't nail home that starboard advantage over Groupama. And the lead that Frank Camas and his team have got, put that down to that bottom mark rounding.
Well, we thought that the advantage to be gained was inevitable as soon as they got around there, and so it's proved to be. Groupama stretching away now, and it's very hard to see how anybody can catch them now, barring some equipment failure. One of the Portuguese Navy sail training vessels there, with a grandstand view of the mark.
Yeah, 2 big manoeuvres to come though, Martin. They've got this top mark rounding, and they've got to come round, and they've got to get put up a downwind sail in A2, and then they've got another bottom mark rounding to do. Although 250 metres, if you're clean and the crew work's good, not an issue. 260 metres, they continue to extend. But there's a little bit left in it, but certainly Groupama look, I think they look like they got this one in the bag, barring a mechanical issue.
Well, Peter, I got a little news for you from up here, that little early birthday present for Frank Camas and Groupama. This course is about to be shortened, and it's only 1 mile to the next mark from this top mark here.
Well, there we go, course change. That's the C flag, and there'll be a sound signal that the teams will hear, and the race management have decided just to shorten it up a little bit. So the rich get richer, Martin, your old cliche.
Well, it's never been more applicable than it is now, because this is Frank Camas, and he is in golden form at the moment. Just the boat looks perfect, and the fact that he can look backwards and with some impunity now as
Martin, this is
they close in on the gate.
Setting up for a taxi, looking down the course, right-hand mark, if we can see, gee, that's a solid lead. Groupama coming in, they'll head to the left-hand mark, we can see the marker there. They'll tack around, they'll go for the hoist, and it's a real short leg just down to, there's the orange mark, that's what they'll be heading for. Here you can hear the whistle, that's the change of course. We've got the sea flag flying. Groupama coming in, just a little bit eased. The Genoa's been eased out a little bit. They'll be looking at the boat speed I've got here. They're getting along at just on 13 knots. Around the mark. So Groupama, this is Mark 2. They lead from Camper. Groupama good off the line. There is a bit of lead changing on leg 1. They dominated at that bottom mark. They've extended on the upwind over Camper. Camper, port boat required to keep clear. Groupama, of course, playing it pretty safe. They don't want to tangle.
It's funny, isn't it, how the lead boat in these conditions does get to stretch away, but the battle has really been pretty intense behind. And
although it has settled down a wee bit because Camper, they managed to get back ahead of Abu Dhabi, and then Abu Dhabi got in the spectator boats. That upset them a wee bit. But Camper bled valuable metres at the bottom of the course. They've consolidated at the top of the course. So it'll be Camper second. Abu Dhabi will come in third. So look at Sanya having to avoid there. Groupama on starboard. Sanya having to go a little bit deep, required to keep clear. As we look at Abu Dhabi setting up with their A2 for the downwind. This is a short downwind, just a little sprint down to the bottom and then back to the finish.
Justin Slattery shrugs off the spray as Ian Walker brings Azam, the determined boat from Abu Dhabi, around the mark in third place.
Now remember, we've got a shortened course, so they go back down to, they're on the third leg. It's a short little sprint down to the bottom and then back to the finish. So Sanya have gone for a different option. You can see they're going to the other marker. It's a gate. So Sanya come round. They had to do that dip, which took them off the ley line. Okay. So Sanya come round. They'll come round the mark and then they'll jibe. Up goes the Jenica on the leeward side. This will be a reasonably fast exit from the mark for Sanya because they could do quite a good sneak. And then Telefónica going to the other gate marker around the orange mark. And they trail the fleet after copping a penalty soon after the start. Boy, this is a bit of a disaster mark for Telefónica.
Another one, 3 in a row. Who would have thought it? We thought that to cop it twice was pretty severe, but we never thought that it would be they'd make a triple of it. So we look back down the fleet. What a great scene here! The sail training ship and the whole fleet there powering down towards the final mark.
Well, it's only 1.2 nautical miles down to the bottom mark, and so the boats are busy. By the time they've got their Jenicas up and the jib down and then tidied up, they'll be doing that bottom mark approach. Mark, just coming out to you, how does it look for the bottom mark approach for Groupama and Camper?
Well, they're laying down nicely. They've got some nice pressure coming down right down the middle of the river, and they're so confident they've even just kept their Jenny up. So they're flying down here, lots of breeze coming down. I think the breeze has actually come up over the afternoon.
Well, I can tell you from my little dashboard here, you've got Camper have got 20 knots. So you're up at, we started in around 16 knots, and now it's sort of gusting anything from 17 to 20 knots. Well, problem on board Telefónica. Now they've got their Jenica in the water. It's all going bad for Telefónica. They fouled out. They have lost their halyard. The Spinnaker or Jenica is dropped in the water. This will be certainly a knock to their confidence. They wanted to have a good one. They wanted to, you know, the rot has set in on board this boat as they retrieve the Jenica. But Martin, this was not a good look for the boat that's second in the Volvo Ocean Race.
Well, it's not, and how much damage could be being done to this sail now, and we've already talked about the fact that they haven't got any more.
Well, we've got an issue here, guys. Come with me, because we Groupama they've actually just got their sails down now, but Puma has had a fantastic leg and definitely caught up on this. They run the wall down on the city side, and Groupama has got the kite down, and I think this has caught them out slightly. They did a very late drop, and now they're coming around the mark with this spinnaker still in the cockpit as the bow comes up, but their lead just whittled away a little there as they now have finished all the expensive manoeuvres. A little luff there to help the Jenny come in, and it'll be a jibe round for Puma, who is now ahead of Camper.
Yeah, Puma have got round Camper. Kenny Reid, he's done a beautiful downwind. He ripped down that wall, and he's taken advantage. He's got around Camper. So Ken Reid certainly has had a good import. He's been on the defensive in many ways. Still got a lot of spinnaker in the cockpit as the crew work hard to get it down the hatch. But what a downwind leg for Puma. They've got round Camper, and they're actually close enough to Groupama for Groupama to have to be probably quite defensive on the 1.2 final little leg, little upwind to the finish.
What a disaster for Camper being caught out like that, and well, it was taking the other option, wasn't it? Up the gate, they had the choice, and that's where the second and third changed places. Brilliant sailing by Ken Reid, absolutely extraordinary.
Certainly, he took advantage. Camper went round. That's the lovely thing, Martin, about the bottom marks. We'll go to Sanya. Sanya have got a halyard.
Sanya's having a shocker.
They've had a shocker. The halyard is locked at the top of the mast. They've had to put the bowman up the mast. Can't release. They cannot release the halyard as Abu Dhabi come around the bottom mark. Well,
it's all odds.
Another mechanical issue for Sanya. Gee, they've been plagued.
They have indeed, and this is. But I mean, really, you've got to take hats off to Ken Reid.
Big time.
Big time.
Picked the right gate at the top mark. Of course, the jibe set is a faster manoeuvre, and I think that probably gave him a better exit from the mark. As we can see, the snap shackle's been released. The halyard, the sail drops down into the water. It looks like they've cast it adrift, so they've smoked the halyard, they've let the sheets and the braces go, and the sail stays in the water. A bit like in America's Cup takedown, Martin. The rib will come in and pick that one up. But that is a bit of a shocker for Sanya.
So where has that put them? No, we've still got. Still going to get well in ahead of Telefónica by the look of it. So. Well, a little bit of a fright for Frank Camas, but he's going to hang on by the look of it. Brilliant sailing by Ken Reid on Puma, absolutely exquisite.
Leg 3 was certainly the moment where the Puma pounced, and really Ken Reid just took that opportunity and said, "Oh, thanks very much, I'll take that one." And he's going to. That's it. In the context of the race, that 1 point that Kenny Reid has just got over Camper. We'll just put that one in the bank, Martin. It could be a big deal down track.
And it's another case of a point left on the table where Camper are concerned. So,
well, it's almost the story of their race, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
In tight situations, they bleed points. I mean, they were ahead at Mark 1. They bled a point there to Puma, to Groupama. At that mark rounding, which was number 3. They bled another point to Puma, and I'm sure that wouldn't have gone unnoticed on board.
Mark, what an advantage that must have been for Puma. A brilliant call there. Could you actually see that developing?
Yeah, well, Puma actually sailed quite down near the city side wall and just picked up a huge gust and came down to them. The other thing is, if you look at the track of Groupama, I've got a sneaky feeling that was a misjudgment. They were actually heading for the other mark. When they saw Puma going for their drop, they then hurriedly dropped theirs and then made the elbow turn off to the left. So we might have actually seen a pace change there.
Well, it ain't over till it's over in this race by any manner of means, and this will close things up with, to some extent, with the short form trophy. But Groupama now stretch out and add another 6 points, so they go out to 189. And Telefónica, well, they've really been punished today. And Ken Reid climbs back a few more to lessen the gap, so still all to fight for further down the track.
Well, for me, for Telefónica, Martin, it's in the last 3 inshores, if we do the numbers, I think they've bled like 15 points. As we look at now, Telefónica coming up to the finish. Groupama coming up to the finish. And what a race for Frank Camas. He's done the business. He got a beautiful start. Couple of lead changes on the first leg, but that bottom mark ley line was perfect. On the upwind they defended. They had a little bit of a hiccup on that short run, but it's Groupama coming through to take this one out. Great race by the Groupama team, and hand goes up, and they will be thrilled.
Well, look what it means. That's all in the body language there on board the boat. Handshakes, high fives, the whole lot, hugs all round. And look at PUMA absolutely steaming it. What an amazing second spot for PUMA. Ocean Racing, powered by Bergen, Ken Reid, a master stroke at that last on that last leg there. Brilliant sailing by PUMA. They now hop into the lead in terms of the import race table. They've got 1 more point over the 3rd place that Camper is going to have shortly, and you can see again what this has meant to them, because that's helped them reduce the gap on Telefónica. So Camper come through. They desperately needed to win this. They might still be in the mix in some kind of mathematical, if this happens and that happens and all the rest of it, but they'll be disappointed with this, because they were at one stage in the box seat and it slipped away from them yet again. So Camper, with Emma's Team New Zealand, take 3rd place in this Oeiras import race. And you can see the disappointment, actually. That's pretty visible, as visible as the happiness was on the other boats. They know that they've let one slip away.
They haven't sailed well on board Camper. As we look at Abu Dhabi, they're coming up, they'll take 4th. And Abu Dhabi, really, they were looking quite strong halfway through, but they got into the spectator boats, and that was costly. So Ian Walker will be going, oh, one that got away. And that will just leave us with Telefónica to come, and what a shocker they've had. So Telefónica and Sanya had that problem with the Jenica at the bottom, at the not being able to get it down. I think that would have let Telefónica, although Telefónica trawled their Jenica. It'll be interesting to see who's ahead out of those 2 boats. They both have had issues on that short downwind leg.
No, I think Mike Sanderson's still got that one, and with both kites giving them both boats problems. But there's the spectator fleet, which gave us a little bit of interest earlier on. Difficult in a narrow river like that. Well, that's Ian Walker with not his happy face, but a bit of a shame for them. They were looking good, very good at one stage, and it just shows how difficult it is to sail on these waters when you're playing catch-up.
Pay attention.
Look at where we are.
Sorry?
Martin, I've got to say, I think, obviously Groupama, Frank Camas sailed beautifully, but the guy that really made ground up was actually PUMA. They had a blinder, because they were probably never in a position to win the race. But to come back from where they were and to get ahead of Camper on that short downwind leg, I think that was a huge point for PUMA. As we look at Sanya coming up to go through, they'll be 5th.
There you are, Sanya crossed the line. They've got that, had to shed their kite, which the chase boat will have picked up by now. And the real story of the race, though, in that regard, is at the back, with Telefónica coming last 3 times in a row. That is just quite extraordinary.
Big points. It's a lot of points to bleed.
A lot of
Martin.
points to bleed. Absolutely a lot of points to bleed.
And really, in some ways, almost unforced errors.
Yeah. And it's funny, isn't it? Because, you know, it's such a sporting thing. When you're hot, and when the the rot sets in, boy, it's hard to stop the slide when it's going like this. And they will be gutted on this boat. They were hoping to perform well in front of all the spectators who've come down from Spain, all their fans who were so vociferous before this started. I'm feeling a little bit muted now as Telefónica completes this Oeiras inshore race. Long faces on board, and quite understandable. It's been a disastrous afternoon. 3 last places in a row for the Spanish, the one-time convincing race leaders.
Okay.
And that certainly let
Go towards Groupama.
PUMA close the gap.
Martin,
So this is... Yeah, go on, Mark.
I was just saying, we talked about it yesterday in our coverage of the Pro-Am about the conversations that these teams would have had last night about aggression and how punchy they were going to be today. Those were decisions made possibly last night, as far away as then, if not this morning. And you know, that's a constant decision to sail like that in the first in the here we go. We're just next to Groupama, and the champagne is coming out. But no, that was a call that both of those teams made. And when you're performing that luffing manoeuvre before the start, you have to guard how aggressive you are, otherwise you will cop a penalty.
Which indeed Telefónica did. So this is a champagne moment on Groupama. I suspect it's going to be the first of many over the next few weeks, as we go offshore again twice, 2 more in ports, and when they're on this sort of form, as they fly the banner for the in-port race winners. Sanya just flying across in front, and then I think this is who's going to be popping the champagne. No, they've already done that. They're actually consuming it now. Nice to see it not being wasted. I think we might be having a word with Ken Reid. There we are. Ken Reid, what a race, mate. What an amazing race.
That was, we got to double the admission for races like that. That was good stuff, wasn't it?
It was. Tell us about, first of all, the penalty.
We went underneath them at the start and broke the overlap, and they got their kite up a little quicker than we did and came from clear astern and gave us a little love. And, I think that most likely that was an easy call for the umpires.
Okay, now not so easy a call was how you would choose to go round that particular mark at the gate. How did you call that one that got you into second spot?
Well, we didn't have many friends going up that beat. If you notice, we got tacked on about 25 times, and but our long port tack put us in a good spot. And to be honest, the call, I kind of manualed the call with about a boat length to go, that we could actually lay that mark. And the good news is I have total confidence with the boys, and we talked about that move in our meeting this morning, and sure enough, pulled it off with perfection. So hats off to the 10 guys on this boat that had to do the grinding.
Now this race still, Ken, is wide open.
Well, hey, I just heard, I was listening in, and you said that Groupama is going to be popping a lot more champagne over the next few weeks. Forget about it.
Good man. Thanks, Ken, for talking to us. Congratulations. It's lovely to see the game staying so close.
Yeah, that's our job. See you guys.
Ken Reid, excellent. Okay, I think we're going to try and have a chat with the victory man here, Frank Camas. He's got a big grin a mile wide on his face as he chats to his guests there on the back of the boat. What a thrill it must have been for them. Nothing like being a winner there. So are we going to get Frank Camas? We're trying to get ourselves sorted out there. I think some technical issues out on the water. Okay, so this is the victory boat here, and they'll be getting themselves squared away to come in for the parade in front of the supporters in the Volvo Ocean Race Village, the winners of the Oeiras import race. Okay, so we're trying to get a word when we can with Frank Camerson. He'll be absolutely chuffed to bits because this was just absolutely their game plan, falling in front of it.
Sailed a great race, and in some ways it fell into their lap when we look at the pre-start, because with Telefónica and PUMA, you know, really taking each other out, that really just opened up a beautiful lane for Groupama on that downwind. And the only little hiccup they had really was when CAMPER attacked them on the downwind. But it was Groupama who picked up that ley line to perfection, and that set up, you know, that set up a great win.
Great stuff, and you know, Frank Camerson waving to the supporters alongside, and they've just been absolutely masterful again, and so ironic that they talk about having a conservative start. Well, oh, you just can't believe it, can you?
Well,
really?
I think it just worked out for them. Really, they didn't engage. I mean, with what
they didn't engage
when I looked at it,
because they weren't intending
when
to.
I looked at that pre-started around just on a minute to go, already at that stage it was starting to look pretty precarious between PUMA and Telefónica, and at that stage, I mean, Frank Camerson must have just gone, "You little beauties, you've given the start to us, and we're not in danger."
Ah, what a... Well, if there's anybody being a bit disappointed out here, it would have to be the CAMPER guys with Emirates Team New Zealand, because they had the lead for a while. They were in that box seat, and they let it slip away. So I think, Chris Nicholson, are you there?
Yeah, gotcha. Loud and clear.
Well, one that slipped away from you there, because as I was saying, you were in the box seat for a while, and it's points left on the table again.
Yeah, we were. You know, we have had some nice, some very close crossings with Groupama down the first run. We set ourselves up nicely for the bottom mark, but unfortunately we couldn't get the chute filled on the last manoeuvre, and it sort of pushed it first to second, and then we had a, you know, coming up to those two marks at the end with PUMA, was just a split tack around the gate, and they were at the favoured side.
Now, you are still in it, but it's getting desperate.
Yeah, we are, you know, but you look at, say, you know, what's going on there with some of the other teams, and everyone's having their ups and downs. You know, the forecast this morning for this next leg looks pretty good for us, so, you know, like today's not as much, probably not as much doom and gloom as what people think. Third today is, you know, like we obviously wanted more, but it could have been a whole lot worse, as we've seen.
Okay, well, look, thanks for talking to us, Chris. Good luck, and we'll have your optimism. Keep battling.
Thanks, Mark.
So this is drawing to a close now here, this Oeiras import race, and it's just been yet another thriller. This is the champagne moment on board Groupama, and they will just be loving the taste, Peter.
Certainly, race winner, and wow, what a great display by Frank Camerson and Groupama.
Okay, they planned it, they were going to go conservative, everything went right for them, and a beautiful display by Groupama. So they head off tomorrow, they're off to Lorient. We look forward to bringing you the action here. Let's hope it's as thrilling tomorrow as it has been today. From the Volvo Ocean Race here at Lisbon in Portugal, we wish you a good afternoon.